Hello, or welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg. There is a fine tradition in this corner of booktube that when you see a video that catches your fancy or that something about it is amusing and you want to see more, you take the idea and weaponize it into a tag. And what I saw a few days ago was a video by Crystal over at fiberartsy, who created a video of why I haven't read these science fiction books yet, where she held up a number of science fiction books that she owned, but had not read yet, and wondered why she had not read that. I find that kind of amusing. So what I did is I sort of mixed it up. I decided to create a tag. Why haven't I read these books yet? And I'm not limiting mine to science fiction, but you could if you wanted to. There are going to be 6 prompts in this video. They are books that have been sitting around your shelf or on your mind's shelf for a long time, and it makes you wonder why I have not read these books yet. So, prompt number 1, a classic book. Now this book I have owned on ebook since the early 2000s when ebooks were making a start and Kindle had not come out yet. It was on a PDF handheld device, and I used Microsoft Reader. And one of the books that I had downloaded and intended to read was Middlemarch by George Eliot. Now, if I go through my old discs and hard drives, I will find a copy of that original Middlemarch in a format that I can never read again. But why have I not read Middlemarch by George Eliot? It is one of the most praiseworthy books written by a woman. It's long, it's complicated, just the kind of thing that I would like reading, but I have not read Middlemarch yet. It is tentatively my selection for Victober this year, but it's a long book, and maybe I'll get the nerve to read Middlemarch, but really, why have I not read it? It's long and I'm lazy. That's it. Prompt number 2, a fiction book. The Sockweed Factor by John Barth. This is one of the greatest postmodern novels ever written. At least its reputation is as one of the greatest postmodern novels ever written. It is set in the 1600s in Maryland, and it is about raising tobacco. And it is written sort of in an imitation English of what people would have been speaking back then. I bought this book in the early 90s, and it's still on my shelf, and it is still unread. And I like postmodern writing. So why have I not read The Sockweed Factor yet? Prompt number 3, a nonfiction book. Here we go. The History of the Decline of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. This was a Christmas gift from my wife, either the first or second Christmas that we were married, and I asked for it by name. It is still unread. I still want to read it. I still want to learn more about Roman history, and this is sort of one of the most important books ever written on that subject, and it is still unread. Now this one, I know really why I have not read it. It's 3,000 pages, thereabout, and it's such a time commitment to devote to this book, but I do want to read it. Just the other day, I almost bought the Audible version of the unabridged version of this. It's like 120 hours long, and I intend to read along or listen to the book, audio book, and read along in the text. That might help me get through it, but even then, I could not quite push the button and commit to it. But I do need to read this book. I need to read it. Prompt number 4, a genre book. Now this one is going to cause some outrage among some people, I think. And I need to get back to my app to show you the nice little cover. I have not read The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I did read the first 2 books, or part of the first 2 books, when I was in high school, and I never got around to finishing it. So this is technically a DNF. Why haven't I read the whole Lord of the Rings? I don't know. The first 2 books were okay, I liked them, but I never got around to reading the rest. When the first movie was going to come around, I decided I was going to read Lord of the Rings. And I decided to start with The Hobbit. Now, I had read The Hobbit in high school, and I did finish it. But when I started rereading The Hobbit, I DNF'd it. And I never picked up The Lord of the Rings again. I know it is a very top favorite of many booktubers. And I have not read Lord of the Rings. Prompt number 5. A book owned for the longest time, but not yet read. And this is where I'm encouraging you to go among your shelves and find the book that you have owned for the longest amount of time, but have not read. I'm not sure this is the exact oldest, but I'm pretty sure it's close. This is a book that I purchased in March, or is it April, of 1984. I was a freshman in college. I was getting ready to go home, and one of my friends out there had this book in a class, and he said it was a really good book, and he was going to go back to sell it, you know, when you trade in your books. I said, no, I'll give you $1 for that book. And I gave him $1 for the book. And I have owned this book since 1984. I have not read it yet. This is a classic of Portuguese literature. It is something that I've always wanted to read, but I have not read. And why have I not read Gabriela, Clove, and Cinnamon by George Armado? It's supposed to be a good book. And I think I've owned this book longer than quite a few of the people watching this video have been alive. That's how long I've owned this book. Will I ever get around to it? I mean, I should have unhauled this book by now, but I haven't. But something's holding me back from unhauling. I don't like to unhaul that much, but really, this should have been a book I unhauled after so much time. Maybe. Why haven't I read this book? I don't know. It's just like hoarding or something. So, prompt number 6 is tag some folks. Now, when you weaponize a tag, here in our little corner of BookTube, there is an unspoken rule. The first person that you tag is Steve Donahue. Now, it's kind of ridiculous for me to tag Steve Donahue on a book I haven't read yet because Steve Donahue has read all books. If he does this tag, maybe it'll just be a list of 5 books of Canadian poetry, because because I don't think he reads a lot of Canadian poetry. We'll see if he does it. The other people I tag are Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, Brian at Bookish, Mark at Book Time with Elvis, Elizabeth at Bookins and Books, Ollie at Criminale, Michael K. Vaughan, Miss Reads a Lot, and Shelley Swearingen. I hope you enjoyed this tag, and let's see all the books that people have not read yet. Goodbye.